pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just a few rules. The board members only answer questions and comments from the audience during the polling of the board section of the meeting. We plan to enforce silence by residents except during public hearings and public comment periods. If someone in the audience breaks the rule, then if the individual does not heed the chair, I will ask the police officer who's here this evening to escort that individual from the room. Please do not go on Zoom while you're in the room, as it destroys our capabilities of recording the meeting. And please no yielding of your time to anyone else. With that said, I'll start with the public comment. Anyone have a public comment? Anyone here who's here in person? Go ahead, Glenn.
Hi, my name is Glenn DeFaber, Cross River, been here 37 years. In all the 37 years, I don't think I've ever seen such a disgusting display of sending out that scurrilous literature attacking Allison Biddle. Now, I know Richard, I spoke to him, and I know Tony was very aware and had nothing to do with it. And I'd like to see the town make a statement that we will not allow that to happen in our town, because this is not New York City. This is Lewisboro. For anybody that's come late, that's not how we operate. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Anyone else? No? Janet, anyone on Zoom?
No, Tony.
Okay. Actually, just want to confirm, Joel, are we okay on Zoom with audio as far as you can tell? Okay. Okay, good. All right. In terms of the consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, move on to new business. Resolution to approve cabaret license, a cabaret license application for Le Chateau. A motion that we approve the cabaret license application, which is for 1 year, October to October.
So moved.
Second,
Second, I assume there's no reports of
any discussion?
misuse of that license.
No, it's just pending fire inspection, so pending building reports.
Okay. All right. So as amended, pending building reports, I guess.
Okay,
Okay.
all in favor?
Second back to you. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next is a resolution to approve the installation of Altice optimum fiber optic cabinet on Spring Street. So this is part of their future fiber expansion in town, and it's infrastructure that is required. And it's on Spring Street, right off of Route 35, the easternmost part of Spring Street. Motion to approve the installation?
Can we discuss?
Oh, sure.
Is that the same as the one that went in on Mead Street?
Yes.
Is there anything that we can think of that's akin to a homeowners association?
Not in that area. I didn't see anything. It's very
Were there any,
wooded.
I wonder,
not-
I wonder if there are any recommendations from the Walkabuck Landowners Association? Did they ask for screening or
They
anything like that?
did. They recommended plantings, which when I spoke to Optimum, they said they typically do that anyway, and they
Great.
would do it. Yeah.
So I would definitely want to see that at this one as well. And anything else that Mead Street requested, I would ask that we request for this one.
Okay.
So I guess if they have certain a landscaping plan or something, we could just adopt it here and carry it over.
Sure. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Just open up my document here.
So you've seen
Okay, so
the landscaping for the other one.
I didn't see the actual landscaping, but they said that they would.
Sure. It's,
Yeah.
it's to
Yeah. Just to
cover
screen
the
the.
screen. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'll make sure to mention that to them.
Mhm.
So with the appropriate landscape screening for both locations, so moved.
Second.
Second, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next item is a resolution to approve CRP Sanitation's application to collect and dispose of refuse and recyclables. This is just a renewal of the existing agreement they have with the town.
Okay.
We have a motion to accept.
Janet, has there been
Resolution.
any complaints about this?
This is a
already?
new one, Tony. This
Oh, it's a
is
new one.
approving CRP. It's commercial only,
Okay.
so no complaints from other towns that I've heard.
Okay. So I was misinformed about that. I won't say by whom, but anyway. I consulted with Peter, yeah, but that's fine, yeah. So,
I move we
we have
accept the application of CRP carding for the license to haul commercial refuse in Lewisboro.
I second.
discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Next item is resolution approving the comprehensive plan steering committee's RFP for consulting services to be publicized and distributed. Approving the RFP cover letter and notice of publication and authorizing the town clerk to transmit RFPs to identified recipients.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah. So I motion that we approve the resolution. Allowing the comprehensive plan committee's RFP for consulting services to be publicized and distributed.
I second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next topic is a discussion of extending the outdoor dining for one additional year. It currently expires on December 31st of this year. And I actually had a discussion with Peter last week about this. So we agreed that we should extend it for a full year of 2022. So this way it gives the restaurants the opportunity to know that they can go beyond December 31st. And then next year we'll see what we need to do with that afterwards. One possibility is to maybe make it permanent, which would require some feedback from the planning board.
So the current extension expires December 31, 21.
Correct.
We're extending it a year, which, Greg, that's the furthest we could extend it in its current form, right?
No, you could make it a permanent change, but it's a modification to zoning. It requires a referral to planning, although you've done it in the past 2 calendar years.
Right.
So I'm assuming that their recommendations would probably be similar, but you'd have to set a public hearing and then, hear from the public on it and then you vote on it. So
Okay.
I have a version that I can circulate fairly quickly for the planning board's comment. And you could have the public hearing probably the first week or 2 of October. And that would certainly get you on voting on the law before it expires at the end of the calendar year. Okay.
I'm in favor of extending it for a year.
Okay, so
Just maybe, and this was, I think, an email from Adam, I think came across that can we extend outdoor activities to help business beyond the dining, which is something maybe we can take a look at in the fall.
yeah, I had spoken to the supervisor about that as well. Basically, it's to extend this to not only, beyond restaurants, local businesses, to allow them to be able to use their outdoor space to sell their items.
Okay, so this is picking up on the
So-
legislation from earlier in the year as far as that.
Right.
Okay.
So initially, I mean, we can take that up again in maybe at a future meeting. But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, but I think that's a little more complicated, right? When you get into retail businesses, extending this to.
Yeah, I think it is. And what you can do is we can come up with a proposed piece of legislation on it to do what you're looking to do and then refer it to the planning board. I think they'll have more commentary because it'll affect more areas of the existing zoning code and site plan approval and what you need to do to have
Right.
certain activities in certain zones. So I think that
Okay.
that's something you need to look a little deeper into before we get legislation on board.
Certainly look around, see what other people are doing
Right.
would be a good first start, I think.
Sounds
Okay.
like there's a lot of good online work we can do. We're bringing it back offline again.
Yeah, so let's look into that further. And for now, we'll set a public hearing for, would be 2 weeks from tonight.
Did you want it September 27th or did you want October?
Just because we have to refer to the planning board, I don't,
I don't think we need to refer to the planning board because they already provided input. I think when we had the public hearing last time, I don't recall, but I.
When
think
does
that
it
we-
expire again?
12/31.
12/31.
I would take more time than the 2 weeks because it sounds like we have a lot to discuss. So before we get to a public hearing, we should be on some kind of similar
Yeah.
page. And it sounds like there's other stuff to look into.
Well, this is
Rich
just
brought
for
up
the
a good
restaurants.
point
So
with
for the
Adam.
restaurants,
Oh, for the
for
restaurant.
the restaurants, we're on the same page, right?
Just for the dining, even though it's something that you've done in 2020, 2021, it is a change to the zoning code. So there is a mandatory referral to the planning board, even if their response is, it's the same exactly as we gave you in 2020 and earlier this year.
So that's
So I would go into maybe the first or second meeting in October. So it's enough time for me to draft it, send it to Peter's office. They can refer it to the planning board. We get their response back and then you can conduct the
Is
public
it-
hearing.
is that enough time? Do we need to push it out 30 days, which is enough to draft,
that-
refer and hear back?
I think that's enough.
That's more than enough,
Okay.
in my opinion.
So when you want to push it back?
October 12th.
So the 2 meetings in October, we're meeting Tuesday, October 12th. That will be at the courthouse. And then Monday, October 25th here.
That's Columbus Day, right?
Mhm. And that's
What's the
why we're
12th?
Oh, the
Tuesday.
11th, that's why it's Tuesday night.
Right.
Got it.
Okay, so is October
So-
25th okay for everybody?
And yes, that either works, I think.
Okay.
But the 25th sounds
Yeah,
like the better option.
That's
Okay.
safe.
okay, so let's do that. So do I need to motion for that? Motion for
To
a public
create a
hearing on
public
October
hearing.
25th to extend the outdoor dining for one additional year with all of 2022.
Second.
All discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next topic is a review of electric vehicle charging stations proposal. Do you want to share that over Zoom?
How would I do? I mean, they can,
I mean,
pick it up
folks, you
on-
won't be able
it's
to
in
see, but
the, it's in the agenda packet.
it's in the
now, I
agenda
think.
packet, yeah.
But how would I, oh, I could share, it. No, I'd have to go on.
You have to
Zoom.
go on Zoom, yeah.
Which
But
we
it's
you-
have
shouldn't
to-
do from this room,
Well, we
right?
Well, if
could.
you turn off
I did it
your-
last.
Turn off your
We can.
audio.
Oh, I thought we
As
were
long as your
asking
audio
people
was
not
off.
to.
I already consulted with Joel and I did
Yeah.
that last meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's,
Just to frame it out for town facilities, the proposal.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
proposal to install total number of I think it was 16 chargers with 32 ports at the various town parks. And we want to take advantage of grants that are out there to do this work. And the money's running out, so we want to be able to move this ahead if we're all in agreement. But then put together a nice summary report of the business model.
And
And the benefits.
Sustainability Advisory Committee.
Yeah, the Sustainability Advisory Committee also provided some input.
That was very helpful. Where do the grants come in on this?
there's two grants that are applied to this, and they are, get the share going. The one comes through the utility NICEAG, I think it's called Make Ready, and that pays for most of the install, and then there's another one, and it's on the spreadsheet there, but basically it pays for the between the two grants, it pays for the entire installation. And actually in the schema that we're using, it actually nets out cash to the town. So, and the dollars for these two grants are due to, be ended within the next couple of months. So we're kind of under the gun here to to be able to take advantage of that.
So that's an initial outlay and then we get that back from the grant?
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
Is this a proposal for specific sites?
Yeah,
Can you
so,
It
review
is.
for the public?
It's
so,
for, yeah, you want to go
I
ahead?
mean,
yeah, so I've now got the,
I have it in front of me.
okay, the document up, and on the first page of the analysis, it has a list of proposed sites. So Tony, you made a trip around town together with the chairperson of the Sustainability Committee and the representative from Blink Charging.
Mhm.
And the idea is to take advantage of the municipal properties for these installations.
Right.
So I have up on the screen now for Zoom shows the 7 sites and the number of chargers that are have been identified for installation of sites. There's one charger, and each charger has 2 ports or 2 cables. You know, you can charge 2 cars at once. So.
Do you mind if I just say the locations as long as we're on this
Yeah,
go
part? So,
ahead.
so we're talking about Cyrus Russell, 1 charger there, 4 at Lewisboro Town Park, 2 at Spring Street Commuter Lot, 3 at the Townhouse/Library, 4 at Onatru Park, 2 at Vista Park for a total of 16. And remember, you double that, so it's 32.
32
So-
ports, meaning you can have 32 cars.
All over
Yep.
town.
Besides the grant running out, the other sort of driver now, which just came up over the past few days, is a signing into law of a bill that was actually put into the legislative process by our own Pete Harcum, our state senator, and was passed just last week. And so in the document, there is a link to the announcement of that. But basically, it announces the end of the sale of combustion type cars in New York State by 2035. So it's giving a 13-year lead up to that, but making it clear that that's where we're all going in order to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels and cut back on the global warming gases that are emitted from that.
And if I can add then, 2035 is also when GM is going to stop manufacturing internal combustion engines.
That's right. It seems to be the date that everyone's fixing on. California has already got a law in place with that same date. So I imagine everybody is coming together around that.
Is that talks about new cars? What about?
It would be new car sales.
Okay.
Car
So,
sales,
you know,
yeah.
I'm sure if somebody has an existing car, they're not saying, you know, that's it, you can't drive it out of your driveway yet, but and no new car sales
Okay.
would be permitted with, and that's, at this point, they're only talking about, passenger cars. The truck side of things will be phased in as those become more commercially available. So we're talking about passenger cars.
There's one more thing that Dan probably already said and that I want to highlight because sometimes things can get lost in the shuffle. And so that's this, so the current incentives are such that under the hybrid model, the installation capital transaction actually nets out. So this is the part I want to highlight. There's a net out positive cash to the town of approximately 1,335 per charger. So people like numbers. So that's
Yeah.
the hard number.
It's not going to get any better than that on the install for sure. Just to be clear, these are level 2 chargers. So generally there's kind of 3 levels that people talk about. There's like your basic plug it into 110 at home, which is kind of level 1, I guess. And level 2 is the most common. You see it maybe at some shopping centers and various places around the county. Level 3 is the high-speed chargers, and those are a little rarer. Generally, they try to put those in closer to, say, highways and things like that, where the users are really looking to get a full charge and take themselves along on their journey. So these would be level 2 chargers.
Excuse my total ignorance, but when you put the chargers in, do they have to be connected to any anything? How do they get connected? And
There's a whole electrical installation, and each charger will have its own circuit. So its own 20 amp circuit, I think it is.
Right, so they have, each of these locations are close to a utility pole where there's a transformer. So they want to tie in directly to that transformer. And once it's tied in, it's all remotely monitored. It's, you use a card, like in your own, like online through the internet. You can actually access through your phone, access that charger. You can pay, I think there's an option to pay with the card if you don't have that, but normally most people will, I've seen these, I went to White Plains where they have them at the city center, one of the residential buildings there, and also up in Ridgefield or Wilton, one of those in Connecticut, at a condominium complex. And basically it's, you plug it in, you go on your phone, you activate the charging, and then it gets charged to your account. Yeah. And the model here, and I guess Dan, you can go into it.
Keep going.
It's a hybrid model where we're buying the hardware, but the company Blink, we're sharing in the revenue and they're maintaining. So there's no maintenance. We don't have to worry about maintaining the units. We don't have to worry about the installation, et cetera.
Right. And Rich, you had asked about whether it's possible to have a fully vendor-owned system. And I'm not saying that there might not be somebody out there that's doing that, but it's not a common thing. So like the most common manufacturer that you see out there is ChargePoint, and they're a strictly sell you the hardware, sell you a service contract type situation. So what we have here is pretty unique in that it's this shared scenario. So there is a split. So the vendor is, I think, under this scenario, more motivated to make sure you don't have situations like you see sometimes in some installs where the thing's been down for a couple of weeks and nobody's coming to fix it or anything like that. So because it'll come right out of their revenue. See, a big part of this submission here was doing as much sort of due diligence around the numbers as possible. And so we did look at different scenarios. The key to those scenarios are two factors, really. It's the utilization. So, how many hours a day is a given port used? But then they also have, and this is also unique to the Blink offer, the ability to adjust the maximum power output of that particular charger. And what that does is if you have a really low usage, you're likely to incur a relatively high demand charge, which would be distributed over fewer kilowatt hours. The net being that your cost would go up if you have a low usage. So you have the ability to scale back that peak power output to minimize those peak demand charges. And then as your usage goes up, you can ramp that power cap up. Even at the low setting though, it's typical kind of output that I experience, when I go around and plug in, let's say in a shopping center or something, where go there, and if I'm there for an hour, I might get 15, 20 miles or something like that. So that's pretty typical. But if we do get the good usage, maybe out here at the townhouse, it's a little better. We do have the ability with the Blink technology to ramp it up, and at its highest output, it's just shy of a high-speed charger. It's putting out something like 80 amps or something like that.
Okay.
So it's very flexible in that respect.
So it has to be preset based upon the feedback we get from usage at a particular location.
Yes.
And make the adjustments periodically.
Yes, and again, all of this, it's in the supplier's interest also to help to optimize these things. because their revenue is, if they were in the negative, that's not going to work for them either. So, and there are a lot of different techniques besides ramping that down. You have some flexibility with what price you charge. We put a price in here that's not atypical. 45 cents is actually less than they're charging in those White Plains chargers, 45 cents a kilowatt hour. And if we get really good usage and go positive, maybe the town will decide, hey, we'll lower that. So a lot of this is going to come through experience and figuring out, what works. But we did show, again, like this worst case scenario where for some reason, every machine is showing the worst performance. There is a negative of as much as, after that first year, which is positive, the next 4 years could be negative by as much as $11,600 a year. That I put that because that's, say, the theoretical worst, but the various ways that we have to mitigate that mean that that's not a very unlikely situation. And then there's other scenarios. We did here kind of a break even, which looks at the same power settings, but at around 1 3/4 hours average usage. So you see it moves very quickly with just a little bit of additional utilization of the facility. So that's kind of the overview of this. Lewisboro is a little bit late to the game versus other places. There are, as of yet, as far as I know, no chargers in the town of Lewisboro, and there's other places nearby that have had them for 10 years or more. So it's about time. We do have the grant opportunities, and I think we also need to think of this as essentially it's a public facility, right? That the folks in town are wondering, should I move to an electric car or not? And they look around and they see no chargers. So, we're kind of trying to raise the flag and say, hey, it's okay, go out, and the next car you buy, you can seriously look at electric because it's supported,
Well, this is some great work, Dan. Thank you so much.
There was a couple of legal issues which we talked about. There's the choice of which Greg raised. There's a choice of law provision. I think that they're going to get that straightened out to New
Yes.
York. And there's also something about the termination provision. They had a termination provision on their side, but not on ours. So that was, I think, going to be addressed maybe. And I had mentioned, I don't know if anything could be done because we have a standard contract, but on the indemnification and insurance procurement, if there's any language that could be clarified on that, it would be good if we could. It's kind of ambiguous the way it's phrased in there. Other than that, I think it's a great, proposal. Helps us move forward to the future.
Greg, we looked at the indemnification clause, right? Between you guys, is there something you think that, we want to throw in there that has a chance of how these vendor contracts are,
Yeah,
Greg
Greg and I can
through.
talk about it, just try and
That's
float a suggested proposed revision and see if they'll go for it. And then
And this-
otherwise it should be good to
This is
go.
for the
That sounds like a good plan.
provision of the units and the service. Okay, so we'll get to the installation part of it, the physical installation, whether this group's going to do it, but there's going to be something else. But right now, those are the terms of the service, providing the units and how they would obviously share the revenue and what the liabilities would be. And that's something that I went over with you, Councilman Welch, and Rich had some comments, so we can iron it out, but it's something that's close, if not ready to go.
So yeah, and I think make it, if we can approve the signing contingent on any last suggestions you might have for taking a shot at making those clauses a little bit more favorable, then that's fine.
That's fine.
So do we want a motion to sign the contract contingent on indemnification language?
Well, that's not contingent. We're going to approve the
Okay.
motion and we're just going to, with the caveat, we're going to suggest input as far as language to see if we can make any modification before signing, but we're not going to hold up the approval of it.
Okay.
Do you want to make the motion, Rich?
Okay. Motion to approve the,
I think they'll authorize,
motion to authorize the supervisor.
or in this case, it's
What is it?
deputy
deputy.
supervisor.
Motion to authorize the deputy supervisor to execute the proposal for electric vehicle chargers for town facilities. And we'll make a good faith effort to suggest some proposed modifications of the indemnification and insurance procurement. But it's not, those suggestions are not to hold up the approval of the proposal and executing of it. So moved.
Second,
Second?
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. So I'm gonna X out of Zoom now. Bye, everyone.
Okay, next topic is the resolution to approve waiver of permit fee for the library fair tent.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next topic, discussion regarding meeting rules and procedures. Jane, I'll let you spearhead that one.
Well, I don't know that I was on the final communications from the supervisor to the team, but from what I did understand, in the packet are these two amendments. And what we want to do is have a resolution to amend the 1999 document with these two. Although Peter also suggested, and this is up for a discussion, Peter made some suggestions. One of them was no back and forth during the polling of the board either. And I don't know what his other suggestions were because I heard him say them and then I assumed I was on the email, but I did not have that email when I went to look for it. So that's my understanding. Have you all had a chance to read through these two documents? And
Yeah.
is that also your understanding?
Well, there's three documents.
Well,
Right, the first one was a replacement of the current resolution that was adopted in 1998.
oh, I see.
Right, that's-
Fantastic.
Recommendation was to keep that, but just amend it.
So this first one is, so if you look at number 2 on the 1998 one that I pretty much rewrote, it kind of has this, the regular order of town business shall be. And I put in this to community discussion and polling of the board. And that was for discussion, but Peter told me he felt like this was really complicated. And that's up to us all, how complicated this is. These two seem not complicated and we could pass them tonight. The first one is something I came up with, but we haven't had a chance to discuss it. So I don't know if we would want to discuss it.
The disruptive behavior one?
Nope. The procedure to address disruptive behavior and the procedure for public hearings and public comment periods are the two that we are ready to go tonight.
Okay.
So I have a question on the public hearing and public comment periods and your recommended language to replace what's in the current resolution.
Hmm.
It overly simplifies it. I mean, if you compare it to item number 10 in the original resolution, you're leaving out all the, A through G, which I think makes sense to
So
leave in.
again, I think that one is up for all kinds of discussion. Those are not the two ready to go. So, all right, so I don't have the original in front of me right now, which I did bring, but it's in this map.
So, yeah, you just
Yeah,
referred
that's
to an
part of
item
my
10
water
in the
bottle.
original, the one in the
Just-
packet goes to 7?
To try and, I have, well,
Item 10.
So actually though, my original, I could go out to my car and get my original because it has all my notes on it. So we can continue to discuss that one, but we could be here all night if we go after this one. Whereas if we just go ahead and amend with these two that are ready to go, that's going to take care of a lot of the problems we're having anyway.
But when
And
you
then we
s-
can continue to discuss the actual rules of order moving forward, because I did cut out a lot. What happened is that we have the 1998 document and the 1999 document, but both of them are photographed, or they were handwritten and have been photographed and put into a PDF, so they're not editable. So even if we changed where a period was, somebody has to retype the entire thing. So that's what I started to do. And I got up to number 7 and I was like, well, that seems to cover it. And that was that. And I have more reasoning for it, and we can do a couple of things. One, I can run out to my car and get my notes and we can resume the discussion. 2, we can pass these other 2, they're ready to go, and continue to discuss this one online and bring it back offline if we're interested in doing that. So those are kind of our 2 choices for now. So one has me running out to my car and one doesn't. So
I mean,
Well-
it sounds, oh, go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, in taking a look at what we had before, I think that,
okay, it sounds to me like running out to my car. Right? We want to discuss it. So
well, I was making try and streamline and make it even easier. I think that based upon what trying to accomplish is our issue is really an enforcement issue of the 1998, 1999 resolutions. The things that are new substantively are updating the time when the final agenda should be released. Fine.
Okay, I'm gonna run out to
updating-
my car because it sounds like we're gonna discuss it, and I wish I hadn't left my notes there, but I have, and it's hard for me to. So I'm gonna go ahead and not try to get my water bottle.
Okay. I mean, I think what she wanted to do is, based on Peter's feedback, he made reference to limit the discussion to resolutions 2 and 3, which are the 2 separate documents that she wrote.
Which documents we want
The
to
one
talk about?
procedure for public hearing and public comment periods, and the procedure to address disruptive behavior. I don't think they should be separate resolutions. I think there should be amendments, whatever we agree on that we should keep from our recommendations.
Right,
Should be part of the 1998, 1999 document.
yeah, and then
Make it one document.
So they would be new clauses for it.
Correct.
They're not modifying an old clause.
Right, because then you have 3 different documents floating around.
Oh, we
No,
gotta
no,
wait for
right.
Jane, we're talking
Yeah,
on
I
the
know,
record
but
here, so
that's-
let's wait
yeah.
for Jane comes back.
All right.
Um,
Thanks for waiting, sorry. I have
Sure.
a water bottle, but no
we
notes.
doing
So
this?
let me take this paper that Tony gave me
I know. We're not over-
and reorient myself to Rich. Okay. Okay, Rich, number 10.
Oh, can I have my document? Oh, you're still using
I
it. That's right.
need it
Yeah, that's
now,
fine.
yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. So Rich, number 10, what are you talking about?
I was talking about number 10, yeah,
Okay, so Tony, number 10?
yeah.
Okay, so what were you saying about number 10?
I don't know where we are now. I mean,
Can I just see that again?
Is this in an email?
So I think
Because
Yeah, yeah, public hearing, public comment period. So you have that as, you're proposing a separate resolution for that? So my point is, why not keep it as, whatever we decide needs to be amended, keep it as part of the original resolution?
Because that original resolution doesn't, if you read through it, it doesn't, we don't even follow it. So it doesn't make good sense. It's not current. What I'm trying to do is put into words what we currently do that works and get rid of the conflicting language. Somewhere in there, it says we put out agendas
right,
at a
which is,
time that we
right,
don't.
which is what I was about to say. The new things
And-
the new things that are being brought up to updated are number one, the timing for the agenda, which in the original was six days and 2 days, which never got followed. So you're updating that to 5 p.m. Friday, totally fine. The second substantive point, which you wanted to add, which as far as the sign-in, fine, no problem on that. Those are, and it was also, and then the Zoom, updating with the Zoom issue as far as consistent with what Jan needed to do. And those are the three substantive things that are new. Outside of that, the issue has been not what necessarily was written. It was an inconsistent enforcement issue. So what we were having problems with was inconsistent enforcement. And in the last few meetings, when we had more consistent enforcement, the meetings have gone pretty well.
Okay, so you're talking about the procedure to address disruptive behavior and why I want to change the language for that?
Okay, we can go through whatever you want to go through.
So I wanted to change the language, even though we did have a policy for a procedure to address disruptive behavior. I don't have it in front of me. I have the new one in front of me. So I changed some of the language to be more current and more inclusive. So the changes in language are that the speaker is told that they are out of order, not that he is out of order, that she is out of order, that he/she is out of order, that he is out of order, just they. That makes sense. The speaker is told that they're out of order and is directed to yield the floor. If the speaker persists, I also used really good grammar, which the other things didn't all have good grammar. So all I did was improve what we had. So if the speaker persists, they are told again that they are out of order and asked to sit down or remain seated. A reminder, because, if they're already sitting down, we're not going to tell them to sit down. A reminder is given that refusal to oblige will invite a police escort from the building for the remainder of the meeting. If the speaker persists, they will be ordered off the premises and a police officer will escort them out. It shall then be made clear that disorderly conduct is against the law in New York State and repeat offenders may be prosecuted. So that language is super clean, it's inclusive, it's clear.
And it replaces that 1999 document in its entirety.
Nope.
The public comment
I
period of
don't-
disruptive persons. Which I know you don't have, but it's, yeah.
Can I see, so we're calling the 1999.
That's 98, and then this is the 99.
It's an
Here we go.
amendment, is what, I know what it is.
Oh,
So
okay.
Peter recommended an amendment to that resolution.
This is the old one.
No, you're talking about two different documents, I think.
Oh,
Yeah. One's 1998 and one's 1999. Yeah, and I do apologize for not having my notes in front of me. They're sitting on my table at home with my computer that I chose not to bring tonight. So I don't have my original notes.
So in principle, you want to be able to have three separate documents, right? What Peter recommended was we use I'll call it number 2 and number 3 documents. And then we come to an agreement on what that new language should look like. And that's what we would put into a resolution. I think.
I mean, it sounds to me like maybe we should take whatever we consider the base, get
Okay,
it
so
typed up,
These,
and then
no,
do
no,
a
no,
red
these two
line.
were
on it.
supposed to pass tonight. I
Okay.
don't have the email that you all got from Peter. So I apologize for not being on that email.
All right,
But it
hold
is my understanding that these two tonight go in as an amendment as is, and this document, the longer one with all the numbers, I can't remember if it's 98 or 99. I know one is 98 and 99, but I can't remember that off the top of my head without it being up here. The 98 one, we have to discuss further.
So these two are replacing clauses in the original.
Let's put these on Monday's agenda. My only change would be to limit the agenda to resolutions 2 and 3. So that's these two. The address, these two this is 2 and 3.
Okay.
With public comment and disruptive behavior. He's calling mine public comment and disruptive behavior. I think those two cover what we really need, and including the rules of order would add complexity with little benefit, since this would seem to be pretty well what we are already doing. In addition, I would confine polling of the board to board members and not allow questions from the audience. In my mind, this is the opportunity for a member of the board to speak without interruption, and one of my many failings has been to allow it to become a to and fro with members of the audience. As far as procedures for public hearing goes, I would retain the requirement to include the speaker's hamlet, as this often provides perspective. One additional thought: do you want to include elected officials under the prohibition on discussion of personal issues or disruptive behavior? Do you really want to include number 4? I would prefer not. In the end, this is all up to you. Thanks for the work on this. And so that, to me, I agree with the supervisor, what he had written here.
Okay,
And so we can discuss if we want to include elected officials under the prohibition on discussion of personal issues. That, to me, I don't feel strongly about that either way. How about you all?
That piece I'm okay with.
The procedure, we're talking about the procedure part. The procedure part, the way it's to address disruptive behavior,
She's just talking about
which,
public hearings.
These
which,
two are
I
to
thought we were
be
talking about the
passed,
two
isn't it?
documents, which one? The
um,
procedure for public hearing? Is
Yeah,
that what we're
let-
talking about? Which I think.
yeah, let's do that one.
We'll do that one.
so just trying to understand the mechanics. So we pass these two, we just basically say, we're amending our existing rule of order to include these two proposals here, essentially.
You can adopt those with the rules of order with respect to those particular topics, and then come back to the general rules of order and procedure that you need to revisit.
So
That sounds.
we're gonna have a discussion we're on the procedure for public hearings and public comment periods, right? Is that what we're talking about now?
Yeah, let's go ahead and go through that. Yeah.
Okay. My concern is there's no room there for myself as a board member or the way it's set up. If somebody says something of value to me that I want to follow up about, they give substantive information that I'm learning at a meeting from someone from the public, and I want to follow up so I can educate myself, or it's something that everybody can benefit from, there's no real opportunity to do that.
Although the current rules permit that. At the discretion
So
of the
I
supervisor.
think that that's not what, so if you're talking about if somebody has a public comment and you want to be able to respond to it.
Like one of the things that Dan brought up in a prior meeting, if we're on an issue and we're discussing a bit, whether it's an issue referable to a public hearing or something that substantive comes up, there's no opportunity for me to flush something out and ask a question to get educated
Yes.
at a public meeting.
I don't think that the public meeting is the place for you to flush things out and get educated.
Well, that's a big problem for me
I
because
know,
that's
I know that it is. And I
well,
know
and the
that you
reason-
had this conversation with the supervisor and he strongly agreed.
well, the
That's
reason
my
it's
point
a-
of view.
the reason it's a big problem is because this is a public meeting, and my job being elected by the people of this town is to be available and have as many opportunities for anybody to interact with me or ask any questions or flush anything out that they have. This concerns me from a First Amendment perspective, that I don't have an opportunity to be able to interact with members of the public on an issue that somebody may have information about. There's no opportunity for me to do so. I mean, one of the things that you mentioned earlier, which I thought was a great idea, the concept of like a town hall, which I thought is great, except those are not set in our existing structure for people
You
to
can
have.
do a town hall whenever you want though, Rich. You can call a town hall on your own whenever you want. Our public meetings are not the time for us to sit around and listen to other members of the board flesh out their discussion with the participants. That is not a First Amendment issue. The public has 100% access to you 100% of the time. I think that public hearings are a time for us to hear, and then you have plenty of time to respond. I think if something happens in a public comment and it clouds your thinking and changes the way you're thinking about something, you have every right to express that and ask for more time to make a decision. I do not think that it is the board member's responsibility to sit here and listen to any one of us educate ourselves and make ourselves aware and flesh out issues with people who are here. That is not what I think these meetings are for. So we have a fundamental disagreement on the First Amendment right now. And that's a big thing to flesh out.
I don't know, that's the First Amendment thing so much as I mean, we get to set the rules here and it's deciding what, what will facilitate the work of the board.
Well, if somebody, for example, if somebody brings up something in a public comment that is important, that should be discussed or brought out at some point, the way it is now, I have to wait for the polling of the board, and then I have to make a statement, which is a total disconnect about what somebody may have brought up. I just like there to be some kind of vehicle to be able to do that. Yeah, or else you have a total disconnect about any kind of dialogue. I agree there should be decorum in the meetings. I agree that people should be properly behaved and civil, and if they're not, they shouldn't be part of the meetings. I absolutely 100% agree with that. And that's why the enforcement, as I said before, the enforcement was a problem. And with the supervisor clamping down on that, we've had pretty smooth meetings the last few times. So I don't think we need to over-regulate this. A little bit of common sense and civility and courtesy can address a lot of what we need to get done. And again, I think that the sign-up sheet, great idea. The 5 p.m. issue and the Zoom issue, those should be amended. Those are totally fine. I think
How do
good
we
ideas.
distinguish
I'm not
between,
relying on common sense. Sorry, that works for you and that works for people who have your stature. Common sense and relying on other people's common sense does not work for me. And it doesn't work for a lot of other people. And I just do not, we fundamentally disagree on what this meeting is for and how to respond to public comment. If a public comment is made and you find it something really interesting that you want to discuss with the board, we find an opportunity to do that within the meeting during one of the discussion periods on the item, but we don't respond to it immediately as it comes to us.
Right.
That is not what
You
this
bring up
is for.
right, which is exactly what Dan had broached. There's no opportunity to have, whether it's on an issue that comes up in the course of the meeting, there's no current vehicle for a town board member to be able to interact on that, which may be of interest to everyone here and
I
watching.
disagree. I think it's not of interest. I do not think it's of interest for people to hear a single board member flesh out an idea with a participant. I do not think that's of interest to the public. We
Well, the other-
fundamentally disagree on some things.
the other, the mode that I've seen in other boards was that there was a public comment period after business items. So that, it was still governed by the same, no dialogue kind of thing, but people
Right,
had a
which is the
chance
idea
to
you
hear
raised, right?
some input on those items.
So that was one idea you had brought up a couple of weeks ago, I think that we like, and I tried to kind of start to include that here and, but when I was going through and thinking through it, when I was going through this regular order of town business shall be, which is, pretty much the order of the agenda, right? And when I was going through that and I was trying to think that out, it really, that is a hard thing to incorporate. And I appreciate a sense of common sense, but I think after the last year and a half, I'm not relying on anybody's common sense. I think that we need to have some hard and fast rules. I'm glad that Councilman Splaren feels better after the last 2 weeks and enforcement being tightened up, thanks to Erica. But that it takes a lot more than 2 weeks of orderly meetings for me to feel that common sense can rule again.
Yeah, and if it's a matter of keeping order, I think we can abide by all of your rules, but with these new business items.
Oh, with new business items.
Yeah, that's what,
generally,
I
it's
think
not-
that's what
not
we're
like-
discussing here is the second public comment, right? I mean.
Well, no. If
Part of it
like
was, right,
on-
the
But we're
ability-
clouding it because that's not what Dan is saying. He was talking about new business items. Rich, were you also talking about new business items? Are you talking about new business items when you want to hear from the public and flesh it out?
No, I just want to
No,
have
see, we're not even talking about the same thing, which is why Peter recommended we not talk about this tonight. And we cleanly just passed these two. And that was the recommendation. And Rich doesn't want to do that for some very specific reasons. And we are going to have to make a decision as a board. I really call upon us to do that without our supervisor here, but with our deputy supervisor here. But Rich and I fundamentally disagree on something, or he doesn't want to pass this because it doesn't allow for the discussion he'd like to have with participants. I like this as is. Peter liked this as is. Nobody had a problem with this as is. And so the recommendation is that we pass these two and it's an amendment to the current resolution. It doesn't replace anything. It's an amendment. So it does, supersede it because it's new and it's an amendment. This one, we can discuss day and night about how we can hear from the public. We all want the same thing, which is to be able to hear from the public, talk to all the stakeholders, get the big picture, identify the problem and start solutions. We all want that.
So.
And we'll
yeah.
figure out how to do that, but I don't think we're going to figure out how to do that.
So
Tonight.
these two, one is public comment period, the other disruptive. And we could pass the public comment period one. And then later on, coming back to it, if we decide we want some additional input on the new business items,
Right.
call those public comments and it
Right.
would fall under it. So we could go ahead with this and still come back to the idea about structuring the rest of the meeting and things like that.
So,
Especially new business, because that makes sense to me. Sorry, Tony.
yeah, so
I-
no, I was gonna say the disruptive behavior language, I'm okay with approving that and whether it's a separate document, again, I would prefer that it be part of the, or an addendum to the existing. But the procedure for public hearings and public comment periods, I do have an issue with the Zoom using the chat function.
Oh, yeah, yes, Janet already eliminated that gave her feedback for eliminating that piece of it and that we are going to, right? We are
So
not
we
going to
are-
allow for the chat. If a speaker is from Zoom, they must use the chat function and comment will be, no. So we're crossing out C.
I'm okay with giving 3 minutes. That's pretty good. Section E, topics are not for public discussion. That's good. I think item B, that's already mentioned in the 1998 resolution.
Well, I like how clear this is. When called upon, the speaker is expected to walk to the designated speaking location, introduce themselves with their first name, last name, and speaker status, resident, town or KLSD, business owner, employee, and/or property owner.
And Peter recommended
Accommodations will
that.
be made for those who require them and may be made upon request. If somebody can't get up and walk to the speaking location, perhaps we can bring a microphone to them. Something like that. That's where we can use some of our common sense. So
But that-
yes,
yeah.
it might be the same language, but this seems super clear to me.
So that would supersede the existing language that's in the 1998 document? Which one would take precedent?
This one,
Then we would
Sure.
need to make that clear.
Yeah. we could do
that's
that
clear
in
by
the-
being
in the
amended
resolution.
more recently. If you go
So
by the
you're
most
not
recent
amending-
amendment, is that right? I'm not a lawyer. Yeah.
If you're amending it, but this looked to me like it was a new resolution.
Nope, these are both amendments.
Oh,
These
okay.
two are both amendments to the original
To
document.
the original doc, okay,
Mhm.
that's, okay. Okay, so the disruptive behavior, are we in agreement that it's okay to keep that as proposed? Rich?
That's not, if there's an old version, which is not that far from it.
It's not far from what
So-
we're,
so
yeah, it's what we're doing
should be
today,
fine.
with the exception of number 4, which basically,
Well, no, we didn't accept number 4. Peter asked that. I like number
oh,
4.
no, I'm saying that everything else we already have, that language pretty much, except number 4.
Oh,
That doesn't
okay.
exist today. So is that part okay with you, Rich?
We already have it. This, I
Right,
mean,
with the exception of number 4, like I
I mean,
said, yeah.
under this procedure, it shall is mandatory, then be made clear that disorderly conduct is against the law. So after throwing somebody out, the supervisor is required to say, I'm just letting you know, disorderly conduct's against the law in New York State and repeat offenders may be prosecuted. That's a mandatory procedure it's putting in there. There's got to be a little bit of, a little bit of discretion, a little bit in common sense. Although, I mean, I think sometimes less is more. I think the modifications that were suggested are good and we should do it. Other than that, that's my view on it.
Do you have a suggested modification to 4?
You don't need it.
Don't need it at all. You don't think that people should be?
I think throwing somebody out with a police officer gives them the idea that they shouldn't be here. But that's my view.
And that it's against the law, possibly?
Yeah.
I'm good either way. Dan?
Yeah, I'm okay either way too, but I don't see any harm in leaving it, but you're concerned that it'd be overkill, Rich, as like, by saying that, we would be, taking things too far?
My basic view, I mean, there should be a procedure, which we have one in the original resolutions, which are fine. As I said before, I'll say it one last time. The problem was enforcement. The issue was, as Jane brought up in prior meetings, the supervisor was not doing what needed to be done as far as enforcing the rules and protocol. Once it was done, things improved over the course of 3 or 4 meetings. So that's my take on it. If people could disagree, that's my take on it.
And I think that and I said this in an email, and this is not something I wanted to say in public, but I'm also holding hope that my colleagues who have sat next to me for the last 16 months might have some understanding.
So the current language does say, there is a number 4, it says person could also be charged with disorderly conduct. So that's already implying that it's against the law,
All right, but
right? So
this is proposed to replace the current language. I think they're both fine, and this is an update, and there's nothing in this that doesn't fit what we're doing.
So has it been
why
your
not?
experience over the last 16 months that some meetings have gotten better and then they've gotten worse again, and then they've gotten better and then they've gotten worse again, and then they've gotten better and they've gotten worse again? Or has that been my sole experience?
Well, I can't speak. I've only been on the job.
I'm not
8+
asking you.
months.
I was asking Tony and Dan. Sorry, I didn't make
well,
that
there's been
clear.
ups and downs, but I think over the last 3 meetings.
I mean, I'm
Quite a
saying
bit.
I'm fine with that
But
one, and I'm fine with the other one. too.
I'm okay with these
both
4
of them.
points.
And I think
So
Great.
we can just
I
go
appreciate
ahead with these two. And you've got you've got a edit you just made or something?
We
No.
just took out the part about the Zoom chat.
All right, so I'd like to move that we pass, or that we resolve to modify our current rules of order to substitute the proposed language for public hearings, public comment periods, and disruptive comment for the associated language in the current rules with the edit for the Zoom chat, right?
Right.
and just to be clear, that's the 1999 document that we are editing or amending,
The,
correct?
which is the current,
Which is the current public comment period
Then-
disruptive
then
persons.
that would be yes,
Okay,
whatever's in effect. All right,
A second.
any more
discussion?
discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No,
No,
Rich, go, okay.
okay, so we're done with that.
And we've got more work to do in those areas, but we can get the stuff organized and go back and forth a little bit. see what the next step is.
Okay, the next one is the, which I skipped, actually.
Can I ask a question?
sure.
I'm sorry, because I'm really confused. So Dan, you just made that for the disruptive behavior, correct?
Oh, both. I said
For
there's two of
both.
them, the public comment period. Yeah.
With that edit, okay,
Yes,
thank you.
yes.
We're good?
Yeah.
All right, so the next topic is the review of wood mulching at Salt Dome. Rich? Did you
Thanks,
want-
Tony. Real briefly, just to update where we are. Historically, we had an agreement which we had been in place, which we've effectively suspended that to try and get things, find out what's going on and get things back to where they should be. With the assistance of Hickory, gradually the pile that's been there and the mulch has been brought down, and they put in a rock wall, and we've which was done by Hickory. So there was improvement aesthetically as well as making room for space. Then we have currently the excavators in there to try and bring down the mulch pile a little bit more, giving them an opportunity to sell some of that and bring that down. The next step is going to be to prepare an RFP to put out as far as meeting our needs at Salt Dome going forward. So I hope to have that for consideration for everybody in advance of the next meeting. So I'm going to try and marshal everything that I've found out by talking to the neighbors, as well as Highway, as well as Hickory, and Tony's been a great help as far as that. I just wanted to get an idea about what our needs are going forward, and put together that in an RFP in advance of the next meeting.
And I haven't been there recently, but the mulch pile, I know they moved in the excavator. Have they?
Yes,
down a bit?
they're, yes, a little bit, yes. So I have couple pictures, and I went over there last week, so, and no, they have to do that. I saw that Carol sent like a DEC thing on that, so we'll make sure they're paying attention to that as well, best we can. So, and I'll have that for the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add a note that I was sorry to see the communication from Rick today, that he felt like he hadn't been included in the conversations. And I just want to be mindful moving forward that the liaison to communicate with their department head before bringing stuff and putting it on the agenda.
Well, actually, I didn't put it forward on the agenda. Actually, the supervisor did, and I did speak to Rippinger today and brought him up to speed. And as they've had multiple meetings with him over the last couple of months and multiple phone calls to make sure that he is.
I think he just didn't, he saw it on the agenda probably and was thinking we're
Didn't know
gonna
what it
make
was
some,
about. Yeah.
make some decision when it was just kind of an update thing.
So I have one new item, which is not on the agenda, and this is, we have an engineering study that's being paid for by the New York City DEP for studying, let's see, the three lakes, Wakabuk, Kitchewan, and Truesdale.
Truesdale, yeah.
And we are adding to that study Lake Oskalita and Lake Ripawan. And so we have a resolution in front of us to include those two lakes in the study. We are waiting for a formal, we have a verbal from DEC to do that. And the DEC will be, chances are the approval to move forward and to incorporate this under the existing grant will be decided by the New England Interstate Water Pollution Control Commission. And we expect that to be done shortly. So
we're just broadening the
we-
scope of the study to include more lakes.
correct. So I have a draft resolution that was forwarded to Greg.
Sounds good.
So I think we're, I'd like to motion that we approve that resolution.
So
And subject to the DEC, of course, written agreement to move forward with it.
Sounds good.
And funding, right, yes, the funding will come through the existing grant ideally, well, it will, I mean, that's what we're waiting on.
So it's contingent,
So
it's contingent on. that. We're
yeah,
not moving
yeah,
forward.
exactly,
All right,
yeah.
so
So do I have a second? Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that takes care of the new business items. Public comment period 2. Anyone here have a, go ahead, Glenn.
I'd like to refresh everybody regarding the mayhem at the town board meetings. Started last June on Zoom when Peter Parsons was insulted and everybody else that didn't agree with John Jay United just went crazy. Now, my uncle used to have a statement. He used to say, Glenn, you throw the rock and then hide your hand. And it seems that the hand has been hidden. And now we have this great dissertation on why people should not be allowed to speak. Maybe if someone did not light the fuse, this would not be an issue. Now, Tony today, this afternoon or this evening, I should say, he gave a very simple explanation on what should be expected from the audience. I understood it. Rich understood it. Dan understood it. It seems that only one person didn't understand it.
This seems
And it
already
would
like
seem,
against
say,
some of the rules of order. we
Am
were
am-
just
am I
talking about.
is my free speech being curtailed? You don't work for me. Well, I should say you work for me. I don't work for you. If you don't want to run and subject yourself to scrutiny by the people, then don't run. That could be solved this November, and you will feel safe come January 1st. So please, don't enact laws that if they're not enforced evenly and properly, as Rich said, we would not have a problem. But it seems that those laws and rules are not enacted evenly. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Andrea Rendo, South Salem. I just want to ask a question. We've now included in that study, which is nice to see that the study for the lakes has been expanded to include 2 additional lakes. But we have 2 other lakes on the Golden's Bridge side of town, Lake Katona and Timber Lake. And I think that myself and the 2 other people that I'm running with have heard a lot of talk and complaints from the Golden's Bridge side of town that for some reason Lake Katona and Timber Lake always get forgotten in the big conversation. They are smaller lakes, but they suffer from the same problems, and they have a smaller community upon which the cost and the burden of fixing those problems falls. And I believe that they are still part of the same estuaries, and perhaps we should look to expand to include those 2 smaller lakes on that side of town.
Anyone else?
And I just had a question about a questionnaire that I got on this neighborhood website that I belong to regarding internet service. And I saw here in this meeting tonight, you're installing these new Altice cable things, but what's the story on bringing in more internet service to Lewisboro? Or I don't want to, belabor this, you already talked about it, but I was curious. That's my question.
Okay.
Is there going to be an improvement in the internet service or information about the questionnaire that I filled out? I
Right.
just didn't know where it came from. I was
Right.
curious.
I'm sorry, your name again was?
Janice Billings.
Janice Billingsley. Okay. Okay, anyone else? On Zoom, Janet, do we have anyone?
I do. I have 4 people. Leah Pizer.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, Leah.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Leah Pizer from Golden's Bridge. I actually first was only going to speak to why there were no electric chargers being put in Golden's Bridge. It seems to have been left out. We are part of your town. But I then got completely stunned by what just happened. I'd like to know, what is the remedy for board members who use a public forum and a setting like this in order to insult community members by saying that we as community members lack common sense? I find that offensive. And this is not the forum, I believe, for somebody to have us silenced in order to insult us. I don't know what to say about the fact that you are trying to silence the community. sorry, it's not even clear that you guys know what you voted for, which is the absolute most disappointing part. You're talking about the law. Everybody in the state is presumed to know the law the minute you walk into it. I'm sure your lawyers can tell you that. But you're taking the people's voice away. And it's clear, it's deliberate, it's intentional, it was manipulative. And I would really love to see why any of you, except for Rich, and I appreciate that, is trying to silence your community, not want to hear from us, and use your paid public forum to insult members of this community. We have common sense. And if you think that we don't, do not use your public forum to state that. So think on that hard about what you voted for in silencing every community member.
Anyone else, Janet?
Okay. Thank you, Leah. And now I'm asking Simone to unmute. Simone Petromelis.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Simone from Vista. First of all, thank you, Leah. Thank you, Glenn. I am shocked and stunned. I had something else to say. What I just watched, I hope all four of you rewatch. It was sickening. Rich, thank you. You always say I don't support anything. I support what you did this evening or tried to do. Sickening. When you state you're a voice for the voiceless and you simultaneously mute voices, then you have failed and your message has failed. There's a town code. Follow to suit this board, but this code also is there to protect the very resident you represent. It's easy to continuously talk about clean water and not get it. Make rules that aren't followed. Mute people who don't say what you want to hear. But to actually achieve growth, real growth, and bring people together, you have to listen. And sometimes it's to the very things you don't want to hear. When you put something on an agenda and you fail to even bring the proper paperwork with you and force through a vote to amend an amendment where you want people threatened that you represent with arrest, then you have to rethink why you're on this board. It is sickening. And possibly you have hit bottom, whether it's with a car that uses gas or an electric one. I am sickened. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Simone. Now I'm asking Dean Travellino to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I was going to comment this evening to thank the board for taking some action at the Salt Dome and to be cognizant of the fact that the DEP regulations or DEC regulations do work no matter the size for the fire risks that are actually there. And to get something done, I know it's a difficult problem, was made to get to a point where it was completely out of hand. I appreciate that. But I have to tell you, sitting here now and hearing this, disappointed at some board members for not standing up and looking at this issue about this disorderly conduct. As Richard said, it's a very difficult issue, disorderly conduct versus the right to know. Some states have passed right to know legislation just so that people can't just get tossed out of meetings like that. Even in New York State, we have an open meetings law. Is that a violation of the law when you violate the open meetings law? It's a complicated issue. To just say we'll throw them out and tell them that they violated the law. You should tell the judges that you're making a law there now and jury and convicting people. It's a wonderful, it's just amazing to me. You need to be more critical. It was what happened tonight was sort of disgraceful. My wife, who's apolitical, as much as you're going to find in this town, was at the board meeting a couple of meetings ago about the cell tower just to watch. She was shocked by the behavior of certain people. And then I had her watch last week's meeting, I think it was, or 2 weeks ago, when some of those people came back in this kabuki dance of we're threatened, threatening people and then saying they're threatened and then saying we're going to call a cop on you and throw you out. And then you can kick them out the door and say, you violated the law. This is not America. That's not even what I came and went on this call for. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Next, I'm asking Kimberly Morello to unmute.
Hi, good evening. Two items. I live in Golden's Bridge. And the mention of the electric car stations, I was just trying to clarify how many uses in a particular week would that make these stations viable for us? I saw a lot of losses in parentheses and the $21,000 and change for the 16. So I just want to get a clarification as to how many usages. So the town hall, if there's one there, I could imagine that was used a lot. But if one is in the park and is only used once every 2 weeks, do we start to lose money at that point? And when does it get to pay for itself? So that's my question in reference to that. Second portion in relation to the meetings and the language in the, I guess, which would be the bylaws. Mr. Sclaren, I applaud you for standing up against what seems to be a foregone conclusion before this meeting. Robert's Rules of Order addresses everything that you guys were talking about tonight. I'm not certain why that might not have been consulted or had been, but it's in there of how to deal with disorderly persons and how to run a meeting and how to enforce the meeting so that those types of things don't occur. The second thing is maybe it would be an idea to poll some adjacent towns on their town board meetings, which don't run like this one seems to fall into certain times, because they don't seem to have the same problem. So those are my two thoughts. I thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Kimberly. That is it, Deputy Supervisor.
Okay, thank you, Janet. So next item is the approval of claims. Do I have a motion to accept the approval of claims?
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Polling of the board. I'll start with Jane.
So I'm going to take my polling of the board tonight to talk about the comprehensive plan committee. Really just on the liaison along with Dan for the comprehensive plan steering committee, and they have a survey out. It is on our town website. If you go to the comprehensive plan steering committee page, it's right there. It's also around town. There are signs posted. They are hard copies at the library, at the townhouse, at the post offices. Also on the signs at those various locations, there's a QR code. It really shouldn't take more than 5 or 10 minutes. And so please fill that out. And also when we approved that resolution, part of it was authorizing the town clerk to transmit RFPs to identified recipients. So I wanted to thank Janet for that. And that's all I want to do with my polling of the board this evening. Thank you so much for coming and participating. It is always appreciated.
Yeah.
There was just a question about the amount of usage the chargers have to have in order to be viable. And that's in the document, we were showing about an average of 1.75 hours per day to be break even. And so for each charger. So that's average across all the chargers. And then of course, you'll get usage, which is going to vary, where some chargers may get higher usage and be net positive, and then others may be negative, but that's the average for a given charger. So the negative numbers that you saw were based on a lower usage and we're expecting, as we said, to if that's the way some of them are running, then take steps and mitigate that. But I wanted to, have the theoretical worst out there and then show how we would address that. I guess that's all I have. I just wanted to make a comment. There was a comment made about on the Zoom about common sense. And what I heard was, Rich was saying that this was about common sense. And then the response was, no, it didn't seem like common sense it was all that was needed in this case. There was no attempt to paint the entire town as not having common sense. That was not the way I heard it. I want to make sure that's clear.
Rich?
Thanks, Tony. Few quick items. First of all, I just wanted to express my appreciation to the Vista Fire Department for the 9/11 ceremony. It's the first one that I got to attend in person. It was very moving. It was just, and those of us who lived through that day, and just what was such a fitting tribute is Phil Katz reading the names of the 343 fallen firefighters. Just it was a very moving ceremony, and I'm really glad that I was there for it. This Saturday, can't believe it's here, September 18th, Library Fair. I'm going to be there along with some of my board members. Going to be parking extraordinaire, and hopefully we're going to have fantastic weather. And please come out and support the library. It's going to be a great day from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Come early, stay late, be patient with the people that are trying to direct you to a proper parking spot. Please, it'll be a lot of fun. I know they have the dunk tank. So I think the water will be for 29 degrees to make it even. No, so it'll be fun. Just a great community event for all of us to be together and share each other's company, and for a great cause, our library. And so eat, drink, have fun, bring your families. It'll be a great day. And last but not least, for those who celebrate during this time of year, I want to wish Lashana Tova to those in our community, including myself, who are. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rich. So first I'll start with Peter Parsons. So Peter did have a medical procedure on Friday. He's doing well. I spoke to him over the weekend, spoke to him again today. So he's okay. He's probably tuned into Zoom, maybe. I don't know. Is he, Janet?
I don't think so.
Okay. I told him that, yeah, don't bother. But yeah, so yeah, things went well with him. So hopefully we'll see him back on his feet real soon. Yeah, the library fair. Thank you very much. If anyone wants to dunk me, I'll be in the dunk tank, as will Andrea, right? I think. Awesome. Yeah. And then the following day on Sunday, we have a softball game. The two political parties will be playing against each other. It's a fundraiser for the Community Center Northern Westchester. So hope to see many people there.
And I don't understand why we never have a basketball game instead of a softball game.
We could do that.
Now you bring it up. That's right.
When we meet, I would take that.
Yeah, so the other point is Golden's Bridge, there's an affordable housing unit that we've been broadcasting and advertising, and nobody's taken advantage of it. And it's still available. It's in a owner occupied house that has an accessory apartment, convenient to the train station. I have a flyer here, actually.
Former St. Michael's.
It's the former St. Michael's church.
Yeah.
For a one-person household, the maximum household income is $44,650. So if you make below that, you're entitled to this to rent the apartment. For two people, the maximum household income is $51,000. So if there's anyone here, if you know anyone that falls within that range, and they're looking for a place that's convenient to train station, walking distance,
And the trails.
and you can actually walk to the supermarket, the shopping
Yeah.
center. It's a great location. It's in Old Golden's Bridge on Old Bedford Road. Actually, I think it's on Park Road, which is parallel to Old Bedford Road.
Beautiful oak floors, I was reading.
Yeah. It's got beautiful, it's 600 square feet, living area, kitchen, bathroom, and parking. There is oak flooring, and the unit is handicapped accessible. So that's the other important thing.
Great.
And no one's taking advantage of it. We've been advertising this for several weeks now. So let's get the word out there. The other item I have is, regarding the internet service that Janice, you brought up. So we are working with, Optimum are expanding their service. Their current infrastructure is old. I'm waiting for them on a plan with dates for full expansion and rollout of it's called fiber to the home. So it's a service that's not dependent on utility power. So if the utility power goes away, Optimum will still work. So they're working on that. We're working on Verizon as well to try to do some more expansion beyond, right now they're in Goldensbridge, certain areas of Goldensbridge. They're possibly going to be expanding into the co-ops in Goldensbridge because NICEAG are going to be redoing their underground infrastructure. They're replacing their wiring. So I got Verizon to come in and take the opportunity to leverage the open trenches to run fiber service so that the folks there have another option outside of Optimum. So that's what's in the works right now. And of course, you mentioned the wireless survey that you received. That's part of the wireless master plan that it's paid for by the county. It's a wireless master plan study paid for by Westchester County for 7 municipalities, which includes Lewisboro. And they're currently working on finalizing that plan. And then they presented to us a couple of meetings ago. And from that, we're going to know where we need additional infrastructure to fill in gaps in town. So we'll keep working on that. And Rob Cummings is in the Antenna Advisory Board. So I thank them for their engagement and working with the carriers and with this third party that's doing the study.
We made an amazing video for our WMOA.
Yes,
dinner.
we had Westchester Municipal Officials Association dinner at Le Chateau, and Rob presented the Lewisboro video, which we'll put up on the website. I think it already is, right? On the website or not yet? Okay. So we'll get it up on the website and yeah, blast it out there so folks are aware. The other item, just get back to the discussion we had here tonight. I know some people are not happy with the result, but let me just clarify. So what we did was we adopted new language that's going into the existing document that addresses disruptive behavior in public comment periods. We did not alter the original rules of order, right? That actually replaces Robert's Rules of Order, and I have here. And so we're not silencing people. People can still speak in our meetings, right? And there is, like I mentioned, there is a clause in here that says the supervisor may change the above order of business. That's one thing. Here it is.
We already
So-
had go on, sorry.
Yeah, so let me finish. So the rules for public hearing or public comment period may be temporarily amended or suspended. So to Rich's point, if there is a discussion that we feel needs a little more engagement with the board members, this language allows us to do that with the supervisor's approval. What we just passed tonight was additional language. Let me see what it says here.
It was just updated language. We actually already had procedures to address disruptive behavior, and
Yes.
we had procedures for public comment. And so we didn't put in something for
Right,
disruptive
this-
behavior. We already had it.
Right, so correct. So we already had language. This takes what we've done recently in the past meetings, and we're documenting it into this document that we already have. So we're not silencing anyone. If you have an issue that you want to bring up and we feel it's to Rich's point, it's an issue that's worth us further engaging, we will. So I just want to make that point clear.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you. Mhm.
Thank you very much. So, I think that's, let's see, softball, did that, library fair. Yeah, that's all I had. So
Executive session item, I believe, one, or do
we do have, so with the polling of the board. So now we're going into executive session. We have the next meeting, yes. Peter, you're on Zoom. Can you answer that question? No, let's see.
Next meeting and why we're going into executive.
Yeah, so our next meeting is,
October 12th?
it's a long document.
No, it's on 20, I'm sorry.
September 27th.
And that's, you said.
Correct.
location?
September 27th, 7:30 PM at the Lewisboro Library. And now we're going to go into executive session to discuss
Need a motion to go in.
a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
It's personnel.
To discuss a